We're going to be looking at Reddit and figuring out what's right and what's wrong, like sifting through these fix my print suggestions and maybe trying to solve some people's problems, but also judge other people's solutions to their problems and see which, yeah, see how people do.
Yeah. The whole point of this stream, oh, we can't hear us. Let's see.
Mic not working.
It says it's coming through. Let's just give it a second because people are on a delay.
Okay.
All right, Carlos says yes.
Oh, did we just change anything? Nothing changed, but now you can hear us. Okay.
That's weird.
That's like most 3D printing issues.
Yes.
Nothing changed, but now it fixed itself.
It was broken, we changed nothing, and it started working. Yeah, that's perfect for the topic of this week's stream.
Yeah, that's actually the best way that the stream could have started, really.
Yeah. This was actually intentional to give you guys the experience of r/fixmyprint. So yeah, maybe we should intro again.
Yeah, they also need more volume.
I can do that.
Yeah, so hello everybody, take two. Welcome back to our stream. You were saying another week, another stream. This topic's going to be a topic very dear to us. We had a mixed relationship with Reddit and 3D print help, and we're going to be browsing Fix My Print and giving our opinions on what might be wrong with these people's prints and talking about like the solutions that people are suggesting, if they're good solutions or bad ones, and overall just trying to have a bit of fun and yeah, see what we can find.
We'll also be talking about we've actually scraped a whole bunch of images off of fixmyprint and run them through QuinlyVision, and we'll be talking about how having an AI help diagnose your print issues can, is it going to be better or worse than putting it out into the internet and soliciting random comments with people whose credentials you don't know.
Is an AI on average better than the average Redditor? This is a very important question. And I think it's an AI. The AI is probably better.
We'll see. We'll see. The goal is for the AI to be better, and we'll also explain how the system can become better than humans.
Yeah. So we were thinking about a potential way for using QuinlyVision to like automate the diagnosis of people's online print problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it could kind of be like a very beneficial tool for the whole 3D printing community.
Yeah. So what should we start with?
Well, I guess we could start with like, we want to show them the print fails and what QuinlyVision did with them, because we scraped through a whole bunch of images on Fix My Print, just like downloaded 100 random images from the past month and ran them through QuinlyVision, and we're going to show you a bunch of them.
If you don't fix all my printing problems, I will be uploading Quinly files to Creality. Oh my, that is so sad.
Oh.
Okay, well, hopefully we can prove to you that we're getting there. Okay, let me switch over. Sweet. So yeah, these are just some of the ones that we pulled off of Fix. These are directly from Reddit. Yeah. So
we have all kinds of fails here. A lot of them are like random just images that people took, so we didn't filter or sort them by any, I guess, filter type. Right? We're just looking at random images from Fix My Print, and we're just gonna kind of go through them. I guess in this diagram they actually are sorted somewhat by failure type.
Yeah. So
I guess we'll go through and see some of the results here. So
this was actually a really good test because we're used to mounting the camera a certain way on our printers, and using images scraped from Fix My Print is like a really good benchmark, because as you can see as we go through them, you're going to get all sorts of angles and orientations, and you can actually see, and we'll talk about it, like where it's currently struggling and how we can fix that too. And then of course we'll go into Fix My Print itself, the subreddit, and um, you know, see like how reliable comments themselves can be. So yeah, just to start, I mean, it's a pretty short gallery, but we've got like um, all sorts of different colors, different angles, different printers. Um, this one, it actually picked up that the skirt texture was different in this area as opposed to like elsewhere. Like you can see actually on the right side here, the skirt is like really pressed in and
So it kind of like caught the light differently. Maybe it's
well, I think
tilted
it's
at an angle or something.
I think it's actually like lifting off of the bed here because when you print with transparent filament, the skirt should be
It
transparent
should
as
be,
well.
yes, because it should take the color of what it's
If
printed
there's
on.
Yeah, if there's an air gap underneath it. So, I mean, really the model is detecting, okay, there's an inconsistency in the skirt texture, so there might be something going wrong there.
This
Oh,
actually might be one of the first times we've shown the skirt failure on stream too. It's a bit of a rare one because
yeah,
it's like bad first layer is what 90% of first layer problems are. But if it's a skirt specifically, then it'll pick it up as a skirt problem.
yeah, which is good because it can sometimes pick up issues before you even start your first layer.
Yeah.
The idea being that maybe it's possible to recover from that. Um, the other skirt issues it'll pick up is like, do you ever have it, when you're printing a skirt and then certain parts of it don't stick or they start to get dragged into the first layer?
Yeah, or like your nozzle like forms like a loop and then it like peels the filament that it just pushed down.
Yeah, it'll detect that as a skirt issue as well. So this is like probably the most borderline thing it'll detect, which is just the texture is different and it might have started to detach. But like more often it would be detecting things like when it does do the first loop and starts peeling up the part of the skirt that was already there.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most common problems. I even get that at home still on my stock Ender 3.
Mm-hmm.
That the black glass surface isn't too good for super sticky first layers.
Yeah. So we've also got for bridging. So this one was interesting because the part is actually upside down. And we have fed in examples of this happening with the QV3D. You were getting angles from the underside of the part. So it did actually recognize it, interestingly enough, that this is for bridging. You can see that this is actually the bottom layer here, and that this is an overhang, and then that this was like a supported overhang.
Yeah, so I guess even on the very top right, the big box, it's they've obviously had support there that they removed, um, but that sort of really bad looking surface texture uh, gets picked up as poor bridging. I guess in the smaller one at the bottom there, that's
It's much more clear here.
clearer there. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, this is something because when I was looking at the raw image for this is somewhere where I couldn't immediately tell what was happening because I didn't know that the part was originally like the part is flipped upside down in this picture.
Mm.
So something that's really important is in addition to being able to handle all sorts of camera angles, being able to handle and understand to some extent like what the orientation it's looking at it. So like
Yeah.
if you don't train it correctly, it will only detect overhangs that are like that have material above them.
Oh, so this is it's not only printer agnostic, it's orientation agnostic.
Kind of, kind of.
So
Yeah.
if you had like I know some people have like upside down webcams where like they film upside down for whatever reason.
Okay.
Maybe it's just I don't know the way that their webcam. Some of them have a good reason for doing it anyway, but like if you flipped up the webcam feed upside down, it would still pick it up, at least in theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this one was also interesting because it is a very weird orientation, but it was able to recognize that uh, this is the underside of the part. Um, yeah, this one, poor initial layer. So you can see like with the weird croppings that sometimes it doesn't get everything, but it's still recognizing things correctly too, which is really important. This is the underside of a print as well.
Can you maybe say why would there be two boxes overlaid on top of each other rather than just one big box?
What what it means is um, that it probably detected like this
Oh yeah.
these three as one, and then this thing as another.
So that kind of larger bar would be like the separation between the two failures.
Yeah, it's just the way that we visualize it is not like doesn't actually. It just uses a rectangle.
Yeah, so if you had like a lasso selection or like
Yeah, let's see if it won't show up on stream.
he's trying to do the snipping tool.
Let me do this real quick.
Yeah, that'd be cool if we could do almost like a blob selection for like where it actually thinks the failure is versus a rectangle selection.
Yeah, and it actually does detect that way. It's just that it draws a box around it. We might want to do something more custom, but it's probably actually
Oh yeah,
highlighting
transition
this.
on the stream.
Right.
Here, Mateo's doing some artistic
Yes.
drawing skills. So I guess this is why they're two separate boxes, because it thinks that they're separate failures, which actually might be fair because the bar that it's yeah,
Yeah.
there's a thicker bar between them.
It's probably
Those two
doing
areas of
something like actually probably
under
doing
extrusion.
something like detecting or yeah, detecting like this stuff. It's hard to know actually,
Yeah,
but it's like it's probably just grouping them in a strange way that's causing two boxes to be drawn. Like it's probably doing this.
right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's something I've been wondering about.
When it does overlapping boxes.
Yeah, yeah, but that makes sense. So just like this, the limitation of rectangles.
Pretty much.
Like not all failures are rectangular.
Yeah, no, they're not. So the AI handled upside down parts. Does it have issues with other orientations? Well, we're trying our best to make it independent of orientation, and then the stuff that we showed off with the 3D QuinlyVision is part of the work that makes it independent of orientation. So I can just.
So this is our 3D rotating one.
Yeah, let me make sure that I have the right folder.
Because this is the one we posted to Reddit with the QuinlyVision 3D scan.
Yeah, and those are probably the best examples of like orientation independent detection. So something like this. This was submitted by Sean, 3D Print General. So you can see sometimes the camera is going over the print, sometimes it's going under the print, and it needs to be like really stable.
I like the stringing, how it really always captures that string.
Yeah.
That's very smooth. I like that.
Yeah. Cutting out the background helps a lot too. So that's something we didn't do with any of these is we've left the backgrounds in. I should mention removing the backgrounds is automated as well. I just didn't run it on these images.
Interesting. Okay.
Does one box mean more important? More than one. Hold on. Is one box more important than the other? They can be. So the boxes can have different weights. Like it could be detecting severe first layer issues here and less severe first layer issues there. There is a score. It does score it.
So like the big box could be like an 80%, and then the smaller box could be like a 50%.
Depends on your sensitivity too. It could be like the big box is like in this area, 20% sure there's a first layer issue, and then in this smaller area, there's like definitely a first layer issue.
Oh, okay.
It could be any. It
Yeah.
depends on what it's seeing. So like this one, for example, and this is why I was talking about backgrounds.
So there's like some weird reflections going on here.
Yeah, there's some weird reflections, and actually the way the image is cropped, again, like when the full part is not in the image right now, it'll actually have it'll kind of snap to the edges of the box, but it still is classifying it correctly, which is what's important. So yeah, this is like potentially slight over extrusion, or really this would probably be a retraction issue where not enough filament is being pulled out, and so you end up with extra material in your print.
Yeah. Well, we know like over extrusion and stringing tend to go together.
Hmm.
So one of the things maybe would be worthwhile is like if it notices over extrusion, it could also say, wait, that's the symptoms might look like over extrusion, but the solution might be similar to fixing stringing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's important to be able to detect multiple things at once, because if you're getting like bad bridging, over extrusion, and stringing together, then you know, okay, there's probably too much material coming out. Whereas if you're just getting stringing and like weird edges, then that could be a retraction issue. I'd be curious to know if anyone watching has used Fix My 3D Print at all, uh, to try and fix fails, or maybe like a Discord for fixing print issues.
I had a really fun idea once is
Mhm.
manufacture your own fail, like a fake fail, and then post it on Fix My Print.
We could do that. We have
just to see what kind of responses you get
That'd be
as a
interesting.
test.
Maybe we should try that next stream,
Yeah, we could like yeah,
because we do have like
because a lot of our fails we could send them and say like we caused this fail on purpose, but what do you think it was? And they don't get to know that we caused the fail on purpose.
yeah, I guess that's what 3D Printle is basically.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack says he used to be a mod of Fix My Print.
Ooh.
That's so funny. Oh, and 3D Musketeers does weekly Fix My Print videos on his channel.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have seen some of them.
I fix prints on Fix My Prints like all the time as well. I've stopped a little bit recently, but like yeah, like half of the things I do on Reddit is Fix My Print.
Yeah, so like even with these, like the orientation in the background is super weird, so it's not like highlighting the whole part, but it is still getting it right, which is what's been a very good sign early on.
So it's identifying the poor surface texture, right?
Yeah, and I think these tiny strings on the surface indicate that it's over extrusion.
Yeah.
Like see, there's like extra material being pushed around.
Yeah, because you'd otherwise see gaps between lines.
Yeah, I am a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if it detected this part as under extrusion. I think this part is actually upside down too.
Well, this is a common thing. It's actually quite hard to tell if a print is under or over extruded under certain lighting conditions. Like if you can't actually see bulging or like pitting, it can be hard to tell. And I've seen actually on Fix My Print, people are like divided. Like half the people say, "Oh, it's under extrusion," the other half say it's over extrusion. And you really have to like look at pixels to figure it out.
Yeah, Henry says, I've looked at one to see if I can find any similar issues to his, but everything said E-step, so I never went back.
Everyone says E-steps.
Yeah, that's what the thumbnail of this video is, because
Yeah.
they always say E-steps, which honestly, it's like rarely E-steps, unless unless it's the first print on your machine.
Yeah, like
Your
unless you
E-steps aren't
changed
gonna
your
change.
extruder or you just changed firmware, then it's probably not E-steps.
Yeah.
Unless you're like maybe it's if you're printing TPU, sometimes that would work too.
Right. How many times do you get downvoted because you say it's not wet filament?
Yeah.
That's true as well. Like, I feel like we don't dry store any of our filament except for nylon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely. But although we have had issues with eSun filaments being weird.
Yeah, well, I think in that case, sometimes you had like air pockets maybe in the filament or something, because there's like little gaps that sometimes just appeared.
Like it would bubble.
Yeah, maybe it was just steam, but I think
Uh,
drying it didn't even fix it.
It
So
didn't help.
yeah,
Who knows? But yeah, all of our other PLA we don't store in a special way, and
no. I think I've only ever like dried PLA once or twice, and that was when we had like just a really old roll from like 2 years ago that we wanted to use, because it's like a certain color.
yeah.
But yeah, wet filament is never really a problem, at least in most climates. Like if you live in a super humid area, then it can be more of a problem.
Actually, Al could probably talk about that because I think where he lives, it's pretty. Oh, he's got a wet filament fail this Friday. Okay, so we should all check out 3D Musketeers on Friday.
Cool.
Esun Nylon has got up and drank a glass of water in front of me. Yeah, I noticed when I put nylon out, it doesn't rain for a couple days because it absorbs all the moisture from the atmosphere. I have had like Tallman nylon, that dark purple stuff we have.
Yeah.
Um, I've had it like start popping after 6 hours of printing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think the
but that's nylon.
E-Sun nylon that we have has been good for like 24 hours. After that, it doesn't print as well though. But 24 hours, it's all right.
PCABS is actually also a good one. I did a lot of printing with that on the Ultimaker,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, its adhesion properties change, and the like surface gets worse after a couple days.
Yeah, like PC in general, I think I've had just to dry it before printing.
Yeah, Al says in South LA he's getting problems with PLA. Although I imagine LA is
Is it dry?
similar to here, if not drier. Because Vancouver is very temperate. Um, yeah, I don't know. It also probably depends on the additives in the PLA as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tallman 230 wouldn't get past 4 hours before foaming after drying it for 12 hours. That's like some TPUs as well are like that crazy.
Yeah, like brittle PLA, I get that after maybe keeping a PLA roll out for a year, it can get brittle. Although like with old PLA, like I've had a 4-year-old PLA get like so brittle that it just snaps by itself. But like recently I haven't had that much problems with it, so maybe additives have just gotten better.
Oh, right. Al's in Louisiana, not Los
Oh,
Angeles.
Louisiana,
Louisiana is
that
insanely
would be
humid.
like a swamp area,
Yeah.
so.
Los Angeles, Louisiana. Yeah. In
Jackson
Louisiana.
in LA, the city.
Yeah. Um, in Florida it's 45. So I would, yeah, southeast it's probably insane. But even here, like it gets really humid during the fall and the winter.
You can, yeah. I guess, yeah,
Not that bad
we,
though.
we don't really see issues from it.
There's actually a little known thing that PLA also becomes brittle when it dries out, and PLA can dry out, is possible.
Like,
Like you can,
is there an optimal wetness for PLA?
there's like you can over dry it and it will become as brittle as wet PLA, and then people will keep drying it and it won't fix it.
Huh,
Yeah,
interesting. The things you learn.
told to me by a filament manufacturer. Okay, let's keep going through. We're about halfway through these images.
So I picked up under extrusion really well on these.
Yeah, I got that, and it actually drew a second box around the top surface, which is interesting. Um, this one was cool because it's not actually under extrusion, but because it sees exposed infill and no like nothing above it, it thinks that it was an under extrusion issue.
That's interesting. I wonder if like if you try to print multiple parts, right? The nozzle's moving between those multiple parts. If you'll have to
Yeah, you like probably have to change the sensitivity, or just say, you know, we might have to like make an adjustment so that it doesn't look at the top, the newest layers for under extrusion. It just looks a little bit further down.
Yeah.
Because it does detect this type of under extrusion during printing as well, where it's
like intermittent under extrusion.
Yeah, and where there's like little fuzz and strings and stuff. So this was actually interesting because it points to a potential flaw with the model where it's putting weight on exposed infill as under extrusion.
Yeah.
So that might be something that we have to fix.
Although commonly infill is under extruded because most people print it too fast.
That is true. This one under extrusion, pretty clear.
Yeah, this looks like so severe that they probably have the wrong filament diameter. set in their slicer or something.
Yeah.
Or they forgot to calibrate these steps because they just switched to extruders.
This is actually
It's
a
a
really
weird one.
good example. This probably has to do with like K value settings or the hot end not accelerating to top speed between the holes.
Yeah, those holes are so small, they're probably not even useful as holes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was for.
Like maybe it's for airflow reasons.
But it did pick up the weird surface textures under extrusion because
Yeah,
it most likely is because it's either doing retractions or direction changes and not putting out the right amount of filament.
yeah. Well, those any print with tons of holes in a pattern tends to tends to result in either under or over extrusion at some point
Yeah.
because of the constant retractions.
What else do we have? Under extrusion here. So this was interesting. I think it has to do with how it was cropped, but it didn't pull it from this area, just from this area.
I think that line in particular is pretty
Yeah,
clearly worse than the rest of it.
I have noticed that it will focus on internal corners as well,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
because it
good.
stands out.
Yeah, but it does again. It's classifying things correctly, which is important. This one too, where it's like picking up all of these lines under extrusion. What else do we have? Oh, this one was really cool. Like you can see where there's some kind of retraction issue along. They probably have a retract at layer change or something.
Yeah. Or I've seen this also when like you print outer walls first. Sometimes you actually want to print inner walls first, so this doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. So pick this one up really well. And I think, yeah, right now it definitely does focus closer to the Z seam and areas around it. Um, this one, this one might actually
Looks
be
like over extrusion
over
possibly.
extrusion, misclassified.
Or it could even be like this is a Z seam problem, it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like it's over extruding just on the seam.
Oh, actually, you know what? This might actually be under extrusion. Look at, you can see through the wall of the part here.
Oh, you know what? It's probably combo because it's over extruding on the Z seam and then there's not enough material.
Like right here.
So it's actually probably a zits problem,
Yeah.
but since it's a seam that's aligned, then it's not really zits.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this is under extrusion or over extrusion? I think the reason it might be under extrusion is because you can see through the part here, but I'm not sure.
I've seen this actually on some of my like non-planar prints where retraction was super weird, but like it squirts out a bunch of material and then it starts moving,
Mm-hmm.
and it like there's a blob and then a string and then it evens
Right,
itself out.
right.
So it's like the
Isn't-
right amount of material's there, but like there's a lot right at the beginning and not enough right after.
Would that be classified? Would that be fixed with like changing the K value or no?
Could maybe, or it could, I think it could just actually be a hardware problem. At least from what it was for me, it was it's because my nozzle was way much like it's way too long, because it was
Mm-hmm.
a non-planar nozzle, so it's sticking way out from the heat block, and it like retractions just didn't work properly at all. So I turned off retraction.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah, in
think
this it might be like maybe they have I don't know, maybe their Bowden tubes moving up and down instead of their filament.
the 3D Musketeers has a good point. If you have, if you start having these blobs, it can produce a back pressure issue.
Yeah, like it this is what kind of happened when I created some zit problems on a print. Um, like it was the extra prime amount. If you add extra prime amount, sometimes it'll like squirt out a whole bunch of filament, and then there'll be nothing left in there for the rest of the like just right after.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree. It is some sort of back pressure issue. Um,
This is cool because it's showing us like, okay, here are some more nuanced types of defects we should be looking at. Like, I bet if it was detecting under extrusion and the blobs, then we could use those as a combination to say, hey, it's probably some kind of back pressure issue. Or if you have nozzle pressure issue, I mean, or if you have uh like a line of blobs, then it's probably a Z seam issue.
Yeah. Well, because the what we would actually should classify as is like zits, as Steph was saying, like the blobbing would be zits. It's just unfortunate that these are perfectly aligned on a corner and it's on the same corner. So like a line of zits just kind of looks like a weird line.
Yeah, the model that these were processed through didn't have zits enabled, but we can show some examples of it. Yeah, so under extrusion on the first layer.
This is like how not to print on the Quinly paper.
It
It looks like too close in places.
something that's interesting as well is if there's a gap between the two skirt lines, it will classify that as under extrusion as well. Yeah, so that's why I highlighted that part on the right. This is just
It just found the string. That's good.
string. It found one of the strings.
That's actually probably the string that happens after you finish a print.
Yeah, and then there's this one has some strings too. This one was funny. I included it because obviously they put the parts on afterwards, and two of the benchies were flipped upside down. But you can see it's not meeting the print bed, and
You can
so
see there's a clear shadow right below.
yeah. So it's detecting it as warping, but it's not detecting this shadow. So it's detecting this shadow as warping, but it's not like classifying all shadows as warping. See, it's not highlighted the one on the right here.
But it's also looking at the curling at the front.
Yeah, so warping can happen. It'll detect it at the bottom of a print, but it'll also detect warping that comes from like over extrusion or
There's like bad cooling ones as
Yeah.
well where it like curls up.
yeah,
There's actually on the one we posted to Reddit, there's two little corners.
that's true. We do have it actually here, I think.
Yeah, on this part. Like the
That's the
warping
one,
thing.
yeah. Because the cooling wasn't good.
Yeah, see there's
The top part
the warping.
curling up. It's kind of hard to see. It's a pink box.
Yeah, I mean that's also a
There we go. Yeah.
pretty good view of it.
So that's warping, and also bed adhesion issues is detected as warping as well. Maybe it would make sense to split them out as like curling and warping.
Could be. It would
Um,
just be like if it's detected after the first 10 layers or so, it's no longer warping, it's curling.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the fixes to those are quite different.
Saying the photo also kind of sucks, so I don't blame the algorithm here. Yeah, all these photos are a bit low res. I've actually downscaled them too, to be able to process them faster, but it's quite interesting. The main challenge here for the vision is definitely the different angles and the completely different backgrounds. Like it's not used to looking at these types of backgrounds.
And a lot of these aren't on print beds either.
Yeah,
So
and this is only getting like a one snapshot, like a single photo, whereas with some of our other stuff, like our videos, it has videos from which to gain context of what's going on.
so it has like the before and after
Yeah,
frames to look at.
yeah, like it's like if you're shown one blurry image of a print going wrong, you might not be able to catch everything in it. But if you're shown a whole sequence of images and able to look at around it, like we do with the 3D, but also how we do with just straight video, then you end up getting a much more stable result. So like,
Oh, I haven't seen these yet.
oh, you haven't looked at these?
Oh, this is sick.
Okay, so
Actually, I should have watched that video. New Zid's video dropping soon.
yeah. So like these, even though in some frames it's quite blurry, it still picks them up because it knew they were there before. So like here it's stationary and in focus, but like if we get some of the frames that have motion blur, it's still pretty stable.
So it assumes like if there's a zit now and there's a zit in the next frame, but it can't figure it out because it's blurry, it'll assume like yeah, the zit's kind of just moving.
Not always, but it'll put more like importance on that area.
Okay.
So like, yeah, like this one was pretty cool. And again, it's because it's got video, so it's got like hundreds of
Oh, there's
images to
so
work
much
on.
going on here. I love it.
Yeah.
That's so good.
But you can see how
Stringing.
sometimes when it moves, it loses them for a second. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's much more stable when you have like multiple images to compare it to. But yeah, these are really good
I love
results.
that.
This one's I like this one too. So this
This is
one's
the fun thing about our QuinlyVision videos is that the demos keep on getting better.
yeah. If you watch the first one, the demos do not look as good as here.
Yeah.
Like this one, this one I thought was really cool because it shows you the transition between spaghetti and stringing. Like you can see where it stops becoming spaghetti and where it starts thinking that it's stringing.
How thin is it? How thin is a string and how thin is a spaghetti?
Well, I think strings usually are like,
There's sub noodle thickness.
yeah, they're like less than a pixel,
Yeah.
but they're something that's present in multiple frames. With the warping, the AI was combining information from two spots to tell whether the shadows were warping or not. I think it's more like it doesn't just look at the shadow, it looks at the shadow and the model. So if there's like a gap underneath, it'll kind of see it as warping. Whereas if the model is firmly planted to the bed and there's no gap, but there is a shadow, then it usually won't detect that as warping.
Because it can see the difference in contrast or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if there's a shadow.
Although I have seen on glass beds, it will sometimes detect it
Oh yeah.
falsely because you can see the shadow underneath the part. So that's
Ooh.
something that we have to work on.
People with mirror beds are gonna have some interesting stuff happen too.
I have used images of mirror beds and um,
It's probably just gonna be the fail gets doubled, right?
it doubles it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the fail in the bottom being detected. You see it sometimes on these too, depending on the angle. It'll sometimes detect like
Yeah, the vapor's a little bit
reflection.
reflective.
Yeah.
We should do that. We should get a mirror and
A
print on
mirror
it.
bed.
Yeah.
What was the other cool one that we had? Oh, these were all of them basically. But you can see how much more stable it is when you have more than just a single frame. Yeah, like there's some warping here. It's really hard to see. So one of the things that's important to know with QuinlyVision, it's able to do analysis on like less than a pixel level because it will look at changes in hue and brightness within a pixel, particularly with video, so that it actually ends up seeing a lot more than you might perceive with just your eyes. So I got that one right, and then this one, like again, there's like a really tiny bit of warping there that it got, and in the back as well. That line you can see it kind of lifts. It's kind of curved, so
Yeah.
it picked that up as warping too. Although it did, I don't know, I guess this might be too small to count as warping.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably say the one in the back looks more like warping. This one in the bottom,
Wait, look at like
you'd have to probably like
the
draw a straight line just to figure it
yeah,
out. But that's if it is warping, that's super minor.
yeah.
But you can kind of see that there is like a little bit of a shadow.
The if you look at where how thick the black line here is versus how thick it's here, you can see that it is actually wider here.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's like these are really hard images for it to process. Squint technology.
Yeah, we had an idea for our name.
Yes. Subpixel QuinlyVision technology, I think is what it stands for.
QuinlyVision, subpixel QuinlyVision technology. Yeah.
How
That
will
was
the
a step one.
notifications work if there are lots of print fails happening in quick sequence? It'll probably notify you during the first point at which it thinks it's like failed, and then if you allow it to keep going, like if you don't have auto pause enabled or anything like that, it'll warn you again if it starts seeing worse and worse fails. I'd imagine that that's how we would implement it. I don't, if anyone has any ideas.
You should just probably have limit on how many messages you can get. Like one notification every like half hour or something.
Well, I think it like because you can see different fails when one or a combination of them meet a certain threshold, it'll send you an email, and then you have to take some kind of action.
Mhm.
And then if it, if it like auto pause the print and you say no, it's fine, keep going, and then that might establish a new baseline. And so if things start to get even worse, it might send you a second email.
Makes sense.
But if things get better because it was, I don't know, a false positive or something, then it wouldn't bother you about it.
Right.
How does the AI react to extremely reflective print surfaces? So it doesn't, I think I was mentioning earlier.
It duplicates the fail. Right?
Yeah, it duplicates the fail, which could be an advantage. If you have a mirror surface, you can see the underside of your parts.
That'd be actually really good. You get extra dimension of like vision.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try that. Make a reflective paper.
Like even here, I think if it was not a reflective surface, it wouldn't have picked up this really, really minor warping here towards the corner.
Yeah.
Because it also mirrors will expose warping gaps better.
Yeah, because you can actually look at that line thickness and if that changes.
Yeah, it's a much higher contrast thing. Do a stall timer similar to surveillance systems. Oh, that's an interesting idea. That could work pretty well.
What do you mean by stall timer?
I think it's like if you don't respond in time, it'll just continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the severity of the failure.
Yeah, I mean,
like if it's
like really
asking
bad.
you, do you want to stop your print due to stringing, and you don't answer, maybe just keep it going. But if it thinks your print's detached, probably will just stay paused until you do something about it.
Yeah, maybe Al, if you could clarify. Okay, should we go to fix my 3D print and talk about, how this work might be able to help these people?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, where do you want to, is there anywhere you wanted to start in particular?
I don't know. Do you want to, maybe we should start from new because actually there might not be comments on them. We could do
want to do top of the week or something.
Yeah, maybe top of the week.
I don't know how to use.
Oh, this is a good first
one.
one.
Can we do old Reddit, please?
I think you did old.reddit.com.
Because if you open,
it kind of works. I don't like new Reddit either.
Yeah, I think we'll do old Reddit. All right, yeah, this is much more useful. Let's do past month. So if anyone's used 3D print, fix my 3D print, you'll know that you can sometimes get very unreliable advice, and actually generally crowdsourcing advice for issues that are as complex as these can be unreliable.
Yeah.
And the reason it's unreliable, at least our theory, is that everyone prints different things, and there's so many different things that you can print. So everyone has different experiences when it comes to print fails, and the solutions to issues they might encounter in their own experience might not apply to things that other people are printing.
Mm.
So something that works for me might not actually work for you, particularly if we're printing different shaped parts, right? Like we have a couple of examples.
Yeah. Well, like if you're printing a benchy and you're having retraction problems, because the benchy requires at least a good amount of retractions. You might think, okay, anything that looks like what I was having on my benchy is a retraction problem. But say you were printing like a solid cylinder that didn't have any retractions, but you still had like weird under extrusion issues. The benchy guy might say, hey, fix your retraction, when in fact you didn't have any retractions in the first place.
Yeah.
Or even sometimes people will try to fix problems by changing multiple variables at the same time. So they're like, my print didn't stick, so I leveled my bed and I flipped a coin. So you should flip a coin every time you want your prints to stick.
Yeah.
When it was actually their bed leveling that fixed it,
Yeah, and
obviously.
Henry mentioned too way back that he was trying to find an issue similar to his on this subreddit, and that can be really hard to do. First, you have to like sift through and find a similar issue. But even still, like if it's not exactly, or if it's not super similar, the answer could be wrong to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think another example is like stringing and retraction, because with some materials and some colors, stringing can be caused by just printing too hot, whereas in other cases, stringing can be due to poor retraction settings. And so one person might see a print that has strings on it and say, fix your retraction, or another person might say, try printing colder. And what will unfortunately happen is people can also will try both at once, and then it might cause new problems. So because everyone has their own kind of niche experience with the type of things that they are printing, it can be hard for everyone to generalize. And now for us, we're lucky enough that we've printed hundreds of thousands of things and thousands of different designs that we have some sense of, okay, this problem is probably caused by this. When we're looking at stuff internally, but if we're looking at someone else's stuff too, whenever we're troubleshooting with a customer, for example, we need a lot of context about what exactly they were doing and what they were trying to print.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes we ask for 3MFs so that we can see how they sliced. And now where QuinlyVision comes into play is it is monitoring your prints, but its knowledge is based off of the knowledge of everyone who's using it. So if one person encounters a specific issue and then fixes it, that fix ends up benefiting anyone else who's using QuinlyVision. And at the same time, because it's also a G-code host, it has more context than a single image. Like it can look at what's happening in the G-code or what you changed about certain G-code to be able to tell, whether this change improved the outcome or not.
So like it'll know the temperature that you're printing, and it'll know the material that you're printing too, probably by this time as well. So if you're already printing at like 230 degrees and you're printing PLA, it's going to see your stringing and say, hey, it's probably a retraction issue. Don't bother. Actually, if it's PLA at 230, it could actually be the temperature.
Yeah.
But it'll actually just be able to give you a better advice since it knows the print settings.
Yeah, or it could be like, hey, most people are printing this brand of PLA at 220, and you're printing it at 240, and I'm seeing more stringing than normal. Mm-hmm. So why don't you, in that case, it would maybe suggest that you drop the temperature down closer to 220, because other people are printing this at 220, and across a wide spectrum of parts, they're not getting this much stringing. Yeah. So stuff like that is information that when you're just looking on Reddit or looking at a single image like this, you don't have a lot of context about what's going on. The other thing that's
I don't know, I just wonder what the comments say on this one.
I'm so curious too. The other thing where it comes in really important is it'll know the history of your printing and your printers. Because when someone comes to the Reddit comments, they have their own history. Whereas because QuinlyVision is always monitoring your printer and knows the outcomes of your previous prints, it can use that to kind of inform what the issue might be, like if it's a hardware issue or something. Like if you print the same thing 100 times and then all of a sudden it under extrudes, it's probably not a G-code issue. It's probably something wrong with your hardware. Okay, so what do we think about this? Type in the chat what you think could cause this.
Yeah, this is looking like an E-steps thing.
Yeah, bed needs to be leveled, right?
Yeah, I would also recommend drying that filament.
Yeah.
See, it looks all melted because there was too much water.
There was too much water. The water at 170 degrees, the water will melt.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
this is fun. I mean, I've seen this before. In some cases, people put their belt inside out, so their belts with their teeth are out on the outside, so there's not actually any sort of, yeah, there's no registration on X.
I think important context here is that this is probably one of the first prints that they've done, so it's going to point to an assembly issue or a hardware issue.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it is probably belt. This is
Or
so
it could be
crazy.
like their X-axis gear isn't even screwed on, or it's just being held in by friction rather than a set screw. Sometimes
Yes,
that's a thing.
because the Z changes.
Yeah. It seemed to print the top all right, weirdly enough.
Let's look closer.
See, I want to create a fake fail that looks like this, where I actually just warp
Just
the
to
print
stump people.
before printing it.
Stepper motor not moving to the right due to a wiring problem. It could be a stepper issue too. But I want to see the layers closer. Yeah, so this is the problem. You don't really see.
Looks like it's actually printing it fine. Like the top of the bench, he printed great.
But is it printed? It's printed this way though, which doesn't make any sense.
It almost looks like it like fell over after the bench came down.
Maybe none of the layers stuck to each other and it just like slipped like a deck of cards.
Oh, that would be really like it's actually a slinky.
No, yeah. I don't know. It probably is a belt issue. It's interesting that the Z doesn't reach the correct height either.
You can also see that their first layer had immediately layer shifted like 3 times during the first skirt.
Yeah.
Like right above the print, there's just 3 different
That might just be
loops.
scratches from before.
It could be, but also, that's not what a skirt's supposed to look like.
Damn, we've got some Reddit commenters in chat. Clearly it's a retraction settings, wet filament, bad. Oh, slicing it below the bed. That could be it.
Starting at -1.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a belt issue. Level bed.
Yeah, okay, so my money's on bad assembly on the X-axis
I
somewhere.
think something's wrong with the X-axis. The X-axis might even be like tilted.
Oh yeah. Maybe it's like
What if
catching a little bit on every.
what if it dropped back down the Z-axis? Like if it somehow dropped partway through the print.
Maybe.
Maybe they didn't tighten the lead screw into the coupler.
Well, the stack looks pretty good, or maybe it fixed
No.
itself after a while, because that can sometimes happen.
Yeah, because it could have been like friction.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Impressive.
Side note, never get okay.
I mean, this isn't really one where people are gonna help.
I don't think anyone's gonna help, but let's see.
Salvador Dali mode. Yeah, I'm actually also surprised how well the top printed out. Oh, the first guy, like waffles down here, gets it. Probably not assembled correctly. Probably the belts. Yeah, I actually love Chap's video on assembling Ender 3. It's really good. X-axis belt. Belt tension.
Low hanging bridge. What?
I think most people got it. Most people who actually suggested it. It's like a belt issue.
Let's see if he ever posted a response.
He did. He'd like to thank everyone. I don't think we actually got an answer for it.
He never posted a response.
We'll never know. We'll never know what went wrong.
I think it's a Z coupler and the X-axis belt. Because I've missed the Z coupler before tightening it properly.
Oh yeah.
What do the actual Reddit comments say? Yeah.
I guess we should just read out some of them because it might be hard for them to read it. Nozzle was too close.
Residue left over on the plate.
I mean, I agree, but that's not the real issue.
That's one problem.
Z-axis motor. Doesn't look like a Z binding issue though, because at least some of the parts, some of it printed really smoothly.
Okay.
Oh, I like this guy. He says the temperature might be too high.
Yeah.
Because people see the temperature and it's like, oh, I print PLA at a different temperature. It must be the temperature. Whereas you can
The whole print melted because the temperature was too high.
Yeah.
Did you print your PLA with the? It looks like it printed okay and then melted from the bottom up. Yeah.
I've accidentally printed PLA with ABS settings and that doesn't happen.
I think that was,
It does warp, but like it doesn't do that.
I hope that was a joke. Melted by the block when it got caught up on it. Ooh. By the heating block. Yeah, that's
interesting.
These are some very weird answers. I think most of the top comments got it right. I think it is a belt issue.
Yeah. This is a fun one. I wonder what QuinlyVision would think of this. Spaghetti or
I don't think it would detect it. It's too weird.
Yeah.
This it would see as over extrusion, I think. Although it might not be.
I mean,
but this is like, I think it's a really tight belt on the inside out.
Inside out belt. I mean, I love it when it's an inside out belt just because it's so funny. But yeah, that was my first thought actually, that the belt was wrong.
Yeah, so that it was failing on travel movements, or that like if there's any resistance, it might have started slipping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, this one is just an extruder issue. It would have been detected as under extrusion. Let's look at more actual print fails.
They need a vapor, man.
Yeah, this is what happens when you try to automate on glass. This is not a fix necessarily though. That just means, okay, here's a good one.
Poor layer adhesion.
Yeah, let's
see. It's silk PLA, so I mean, silk. This guy's probably printing it at normal PLA temperature.
Yeah, it needs to be printed much hotter. Let's see. Could possibly use this.
He might have responded to the auto mod. See if that comment.
Oh, this is a design error more than print settings. Not necessarily. There are 3 parameters here, and there's actually a lot for it to stick to. Yeah, I agree that it's a.
You know, just probably just print this at 230 degrees and call it a day.
Yeah. What is he saying? 3. Okay, so you just put him to a generic
slicing video.
Slicing videos. Print 99% infill.
Yeah, I think. Well, to be fair, like adding a fillet might help there, but it's literally just a layer adhesion problem.
Okay, here. So about.
Oh, some guy had it.
10 comments down. Say PLAs have poorer adhesion than normal PLAs and need considerably higher temperatures. He prints PLA at 220 but prints 115 to at 200 for regular PLA but 115 to 220 for silk. Yeah. So this is probably the correct answer. I would print silk at like 230 for strength, but this is the correct answer.
On a 0.8 nozzle, I actually printed it like 245 sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
High flow as well.
Actually, I think at home because I was testing the new images and I was doing 245 for a 1 millimeter line width.
Yeah.
Make a small hole in the middle. That way you will have more walls. No, more walls won't help you in this case if the filament is just too cold.
Yeah. It's an interesting trick though, because you can cause walls to form to strengthen your parts, but like this doesn't fix the underlying problem.
So this one too, print it at an angle so that the breaking angle is different, but again, that won't assist you. You'll just have more contact between layers. It's not going to improve the interlayer adhesion. This is the easiest way to print a thing. No, the easiest way is for sure what this guy down here is also suggesting, which is increase your temperature a little bit.
Yeah, because it'll print out worse because you're printing a screw at a weird angle. So some of the overhangs that were 30 degrees are now 90 degrees or whatever, and you're going to get weird overhangs.
I'm actually really surprised by how many people are suggesting to remodel the part. But
Yeah,
that's the thing, like a, a lot of people don't see slicing as part of the design process. And so they will go back to the 3D model
yeah,
and say you have to remodel it. And actually I think that's part of why a lot of people say, oh, 3D printing can't be used for end use parts because it's too weak.
yeah. And
Um,
these are people printing PLA at 185.
yeah, exactly. It's a lot of people don't consider slicing as part of the actual design process, which it definitely is. So like a lot of these people are coming into the thread with probably mech eng design experience and applying that experience to this problem.
Yeah,
Um,
like in a real on a real screw, that's good advice.
mhm.
On a 3D printed screw, fillets are actually useful, but like that doesn't fix this problem. It
Yeah.
maybe hides it.
So it's showing like that, yeah, people are going to apply their own experience. And so again, with what we're trying to do with QuinlyVision would be, take the best answers and actually watch what people do and don't trust anecdotes, but trust quantifiable data to show what changes result in what improvements. And that way you have like a nice baseline for everyone to work from, um, where that's actually based on data and not just people's individual experiences. Because even you and I disagree on a lot of ways how we would slice stuff.
Yeah,
But if we were to send 100 prints to Quinly and monitor them with QuinlyVision, and your settings resulted in less stringing than my settings, then we could objectively say that your settings are better against that.
yeah,
I think that most of those people are assuming that the silk fail came from lack of strength during part assembly, not as a layer adhesion problem. Yeah, exactly. Like that it's a part design issue.
hmm
I think a lot of people don't see slicing as toolpath generating, even though it is, with extra steps, so they don't consider it as important as processing a file for CNC lathe or mill.
yeah. It's more of like, oh, I clicked the button and it works,
Yeah,
right? But then there's so much more that goes into 3D print slicing. You think you just don't need to be a skilled machinist with like years of training to program toolpaths
and I
that work.
think where most people are coming from, even with like toolpath design and part design, is um, perhaps a lack of understanding that your like when you're doing toolpaths for CNC, for example, your material that's left over is all going to have the same properties everywhere,
Hmm
except for, there's some like tool hardening or whatever,
Yeah,
but it's a very minor consideration. Whereas with 3D printing, changing the speeds and changing the temperatures, changing like wall thicknesses, amounts of walls, your the actual material itself will change in strength at every point throughout the print, which
yeah,
is why it's as important as um, design when it comes to 3D printing. I would say it's more important because you can have a perfectly good design that just completely doesn't work because you've sliced it in a way that introduces weaknesses.
hmm yeah. That's a good point. Like if you use like a 2x speed rate when you're machining something, but the part ends up looking the same, then the strength is going to be about the same. But when 3D printing, if you double the feed rate without increasing the temperature, then one part's going to be a lot stronger than the other.
Yeah. Your actual material, you're controlling the properties of the material and the shape of the part.
Yeah,
Um, and you can, like, this is really clear here in this thread that a lot of people are missing that connection.
yeah,
Try printing a different orientation. So that's like one step closer to looking at slicing, but it's just looking at assuming that weakness in 3D prints is a given that you have to work around.
yeah. Like that shouldn't happen on any print. Like if we printed this on our farm, that break wouldn't happen. It would probably break between some threads rather than on the base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Print it lying sideways. It's like the most annoying support material removal job I can imagine.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Very few people are considering material properties. I mean, there were two comments that were exactly right about Silk PLA, but everyone else is assuming it's you have to work around this flaw with the printer or with the design.
Yeah. Oh, actually, there's clearly something wrong with the slicer model. The lower part has top surface. Actually, can you check the model again?
Sure.
Because I actually maybe agree. Because there actually should have been walls printed below there.
No, should there? Because it's just the top
No,
surface
no.
skin
But there should have
internal.
been there should be walls, but maybe they're hidden
They
because
broke.
there's only two walls or
There are three walls here.
three walls.
I think this looks normal. It's just that the like
Yeah.
expand into the
Oh, this is
walls
good.
because you can see where the
Yeah, yeah.
walls
So
are.
there are walls. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
just that
just
they're thin.
all broke off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we check out another one?
Yeah.
Let's look for one that QuinlyVision would be able to help out with, because these ones are more like um,
Temperature.
yeah, or like just parts after they've been printed.
Okay.
This one's
What about this one?
definitely something.
Why are we so zoomed in?
That's a very blobby looking print. Benchy with support.
That's interesting too. Oh, here's a good question. Besides looking pretty, why would somebody consider Silk PLA for printing? If structural integrity, I feel, is a core goal in most, if not all, prints. Structural integrity is a core goal in most, if not all, prints. I mean, you can get good structural integrity with Silk PLA. You just need to know how to print it. It will be weaker than other types of PLA, but you can still get pretty good structural integrity. If structural integrity was your only goal with 3D printing, no one would ever use PLA.
Yeah, like you probably want, I don't know, a more engineering material.
Mm-hmm.
But like PLA is really good by itself anyway for most use cases. It's just
Yeah.
you have to print it hotter than you normally would.
And Silk PLA isn't that much weaker, but you need to understand how to print it because it just needs to be hotter mainly.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one and it's a bed adhesion problem, weirdly enough, because it
Yeah,
came off the bed and then created essentially a nozzle blob, but the part still stayed stuck to it.
yeah. So the started dragging the part around with the nozzle and building up material over time.
What do you think QuinlyVision would call this? It's a detach plus nozzle blob?
Yeah, if it was on the bed, it would see it as a detach, and then this top part would be a nozzle blob. Because
Yeah.
what it looks at for nozzle blob is that the material is moving with the nozzle,
Yeah.
and just straight up looking for a blob. So I think it would detect this one actually quite well, if there was video of it happening. There's another picture too. It's just from the front.
Although back onto that silk PLA thing, I think we do like the reason to use silk PLA is because it looks good. Like I wouldn't choose silk PLA over normal PLA for any other reason than it looks good.
Okay, let's see. Okay. So the top comment is a joke. The second comment is a joke. The third comment is a joke. The fourth comment is a joke. The fifth comment is a joke.
It's not the best example of.
Seventh comment is a eighth comment is a joke.
Here we go.
The first one is actually correct, which is, I mean, the first actual non-joke Reddit comment is why it came off during the bed and during printing. Sorry, it came off the bed during printing and kept moving along with the nozzle.
Yeah, he's using a glass bed, he says.
Yeah.
ABS on glass is the best combo.
Painter's tape and a glue stick. I hate glass because nothing's. He needs to get a Quinly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So what? Let's see. More jokes. Don't use supports on Benchy. That isn't the cause of the problem. Though.
Yeah. I like the side commentary that people give sometimes. Like sometimes people will be like, hey, like I don't care about what's wrong with your print, but like your wire management sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of them was like the keyboard in the background is blurry.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Jokes aside, yeah, good enclosure. Okay, so people gave actually good advice.
Yeah,
Let's,
that's pretty good
you
advice.
know what
Like
we
make sure
should
your
sort
bed's
by?
hot enough, use an enclosure.
We should sort by old and see what the first responses were. Okay.
Yeah. First people to the
Might want to post your settings.
Are you using enclosure?
That's good. People know enclosure and ABS go together.
I don't print ABS with enclosures.
Yeah, I don't either, actually.
Just don't.
The adhesion is so crazy on the vapor that you don't need it. Okay,
Yeah.
this one's good. This one got solved quickly.
You have to sift through some of the garbage. Two of the most average prints you've ever seen.
I don't
I mean,
think
this is like a success rather
this
than
is
a
a
fail.
success, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I want to find one where people complain about these C lines, though.
yeah, yeah. This is probably also this is
That was
success.
a fixed print. ABS prints very weak.
Ooh,
I think this one is going to be obvious, though. People are just going to say enclosure and higher temperature. Not
probably
hot
temps.
enough.
Yeah,
Turn the fan down, yeah. I want to find one where it's like a more subtle issue.
because these top-rated ones are all the weird ones.
Oh, this one might be good.
Oh yeah, this is. I think I actually commented on this one. Uh, Layer shifting. Oh, he actually caught it as soon as it failed.
Oh, we should try processing this video.
That's actually not a layer shift though. That's a Z bind.
Where it pulled it off the bed?
Yeah, because it looks like it's not a layer shift because it's
Oh, I
swished. The
see
whole
it.
layer is
Yeah.
coming out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's like a frame not square issue.
Yeah, because as soon as that happened, so what's happening is the nozzle's getting caught in the layer.
Yeah, it's not moving up as much as it should because maybe the frame's like a V shape or an upside down V shape. So like uh, as it goes higher, it gets harder and harder to move up until it finally like skips a Z step, and
And
the
then
nozzle doesn't move.
gets jammed in the part, and then the nozzle puts material into the part that just makes it worse.
Yeah.
I feel like there's room here for a print fail challenge at some point without destroying our machines. That would be fun. Like you know, it'd be fun actually if we tried to make the weirdest fails possible and then posted all of them to this Reddit to see what people would say.
Oh, actually, Flip saw his DNA with one leg stuck to the
That
bed.
one was crazy.
That's my favorite fail from the 3DQ Discord so far.
Yeah, he was printing like a double helix that just stood on two little posts.
Yeah.
And somehow one of the posts broke off like after it had been printed, but the rest of the model continued standing on the one.
Yeah, just a whole DNA held by a single leg.
How is that even possible?
Paper.
We gotta find that photo.
Whole part printing slower. Don't think so.
Increasing your brim. Well, increasing your brim wouldn't fix it. It would just make it happen later.
Would help hide the problem a little bit. It would probably get a few layers higher before it would fall down.
And the quality of the top area, because you can see actually the quality starts to suffer towards the top before it binds.
Yeah, because you're getting over extrusion.
Yeah,
That is actually over extrusion. That's what it is.
it's
Because
and
like
it's wiggling.
yeah, it's
You
like
can see how this, especially this part, it's like really rough because I think the nozzle is dragging the part around.
yeah. Well, I wonder if you see it might slightly get worse as you get higher.
Yeah, like especially up here.
Oh, you can actually see like on the right side. It's I think support material.
Oh,
It's a
great.
huge, tiny, thin support
Yeah,
material.
because it's the whole thing is being dragged around.
That's a very ambitious support material line there.
So these wouldn't really fix C binding,
No,
but
it's
it
pretty
is,
subtle. I don't like fault people for not noticing. Like you'd have to look pretty close because it does look like this part is just falling over due to bad bed adhesion.
Yeah, bad adhesion and nozzle dragging. But even if you had um like a really tall and thin part, it shouldn't be getting dragged around like that.
Hmm.
Even if you had like slight below average adhesion. Wonky y-axis without proper tension. Actually, maybe not.
Wonky y-axis. I mean, belt tension can sometimes cause like things that look like layer shifts if it's really loose, but then they'll fix themselves in the next layer, like a backlash issue. But I don't think it's this one.
So this one is also saying like you're going too fast or something that's that small of a footprint. Actually no, because the shields that we do for the
Yeah, we do like these tall shields that are really skinny that have like the tiniest first layer
the
footprint.
first layer is like 2 millimeters wide, I
Yeah.
think.
It's 1.6 even, I think.
Yeah. So that's not necessarily the issue because as long as you're not extruding too much material, there shouldn't be any nozzle drag on your tall part. Even if the adhesion is like not great, it the nozzle should not be dragging on the roof of your part. And because the rest of the layers look so good, you know it's not just over extrusion.
Yeah, it's
It
something that starts right at a certain point.
Yeah, which is why it would be probably be C5. It is very, very obvious.
Oh yeah, he actually got it.
He got it. I don't. It is very, very obvious.
I mean, this guy's a little bit on the
Actually,
very smart side of things, but yeah, okay, I'll give it to him. He got it right.
yeah, this is correct.
What does he
Ideally,
suggest though?
add a
Tech
dual
tension.
C motor.
Nah.
Force your way through it. Okay, sticky spots.
So I think the real solution is actually to reassemble the frame to be more square.
Yeah.
Because people will add an extra Z motor and then they'll be able to like power through it for a little bit more,
It's
and it'll just get worse and worse looking, but at least it'll get there.
yeah.
When all you need to do is loosen the top bolts, um, slide the x-axis all the way up, tighten the top bolts, and then your whole thing will be aligned.
This one is for sure right. Although it's saying to clean the Z rod, just maintaining it.
Cleaning
I
the
think it's
Z-rod doesn't
probably-
really do as much as people think it does.
I think it's just not square.
Yeah.
Your brim is tiny. That brim is actually quite large. Like that's
a good brim.
over a centimeter.
I don't print brims farther than that.
I don't even.
Does anyone recommend
We
fixing
print
the square?
the small one with we print the shield with the skirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, here.
Square up your
Square
machine.
up your machine.
There you go. This guy gets it.
So it's like halfway through the thread. Over.
Oh, I like his. He used emoji.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, ASCII art.
Yeah, so this guy got it.
Yeah.
Square up your machine.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, someone's suggesting to change Z steps. I hate it.
No. Or over extruding, but the rest of the model looks good, so it can't be over extruding. And again, this is probably something that worked for them. Although I've never heard of Z steps changing to fix things. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Ender 3v2. Ender 3s, their frames can be crazy. It could either be like this or could even be tilted outwards.
Yeah, either way.
Colin, sorry I got in a little bit late. All caught up now though. You came for the best part where
we're judging the 3D print fixes.
Okay, this one's pretty epic. I would try a different SD card.
Whoa.
Retraction settings. No.
Damn.
So this is what
you have to sift through, right? If this is a new post and no one has upvotes on this stuff yet, you're gonna get a lot of bad advice. Print it on its side. I mean, yeah. But...
hop over printed parts. That doesn't help because he was printing infill when it was dragging. It wasn't just traveling.
Yeah.
So
this one probably took a while for the real answers to get there. I don't even know if this guy will have fixed this problem. Like
probably
because the top voted answers are wrong. but
Yeah,
like the secondary ones kind of were right. So
that is, yeah.
I don't know if he actually ended up fixing his frame alignment though. That's like a complicated thing to do.
Call and link them. I want to see what people commented on your posts because that's what we're really talking about is how it can be a little bit unreliable to re to go on like public forums because everyone has different advice.
Someone actually has this issue, the speedrun the progress bar.
Oh, literally our customer had this issue today.
So this is we actually figured out the problem after a while.
Okay, I want to see if anyone can guess. This is not something that QuinlyVision could detect, but it is a problem that we've encountered before. I think actually Kevin had this problem, if I'm remembering correctly. So,
So it would just start your print and it finishes in, or like the progress bar just speeds through immediately and doesn't actually print.
yeah. So while we wait for people to put their guesses in, Henry says, I feel like some of these are going to set up new users to fail by reinforcing bad habits
Yeah,
or just causing insane frustration because you feel like you've tried like 20 suggestions and none of them worked or even made things worse. I remember that was like when I started, that's how I felt.
yeah, or like there's that feeling that like your problem is special because none of the fixes that people are telling you actually work.
Yeah.
And then you get super annoyed because there's nothing online that'll help you fix your problem and you're on your own now. Like
Yeah.
I've had that before when searching up like software problems.
Yeah, not being able to like having to rely on anecdotes and that are very personal to other people is not going to help you fix your problem.
Hmm.
We really want to introduce QuinlyVision as a nice baseline that's based off of actual printing and quantifiable detection, like scored parts, so that um, there's kind of like this universal baseline where it can tell you very generally what the issue might be. And
Yeah, like a lot of it is just, hey, this is the name of your problem.
mhm,
You have under extrusion. This is the article that tells you how to fix it. Because a lot of people don't know that their problem is called under extrusion because it's their first time printing. They don't even know what a benchy is,
yeah,
right? So,
or they might be printing a part that's they might not have printed before, and they see a certain issue that could be the result of 5 or 6 different things.
mhm.
Then it also becomes really useful for prototyping and for testing on production. And then for people who are very experienced with slicing, where QV comes in handy is to detect hardware problems as they happen. So you might be printing a ton of stuff and then suddenly it's noticing that you're getting a higher incidence of, I don't know, poor first layer. It might be telling you that your bed is starting to come loose.
Mhm.
Um, or something is becoming loose in the printer's assembly. And it's also that kind of thing that even if you know what you're doing when it comes to troubleshooting and fixing issues, you're not always there to stare at the machines and monitor them uh, for these issues to come up. So it becomes very convenient when QuinlyVision like can flag these things up for you when it occurs. No one has guesses for how to fix this.
Well, it's a hard one. I had a hard time figuring it out too. I mean, the answer is actually not even very
It's not
easy.
obvious.
Yeah.
It has to do, okay, it can actually be two things. One is if you have an SD card plugged in and you print over USB, it will sometimes do this.
Or if your SD card's corrupted and you
Yes.
have like all your G code is like mangled, and the speed run through it because it's skipping all the G code that it doesn't understand.
The other thing is if the BL Touch fails, it will halt Marlin and then skip to the end of the print. Let's see.
It was working completely fine yesterday. Then the nozzle got clogged, swapped it out for a nicer one, and now it's not going through. Oh, this guy says it's a USB cable problem.
I had this myself when printing over USB cable and the connection went dodgy. Printer wasn't giving a verbose, so software sent all the G code as fast as.
Oh yeah, this is decent advice. He's saying to replace SD card as well, because it could be yeah.
That's weird. The software shouldn't be doing that though. That is, even if it was. Now I fixed my problem by disconnecting the printer and reslicing. I now print with SD cards because they're way more reliable. That is not necessarily true. Um, the actual issue, I wonder if anyone's got it.
Oh, someone else found a different person having the same print problem.
Yours is the second post I've seen about this. Let's see if we can see anything in common between their printers.
Well, they're both Ender 3D too.
Yeah. It has to do with the motherboard on the V2. So I think in this case, I can't see whether he has a BL Touch or not. But
doesn't look like he has one. I think this one's probably the SD card problem.
Yeah. I think this one's the SD card problem. I think this one, the BL Touch is a solid red and it's in the final position, which means it's failed somehow. And it can fail like this due to bad wiring. And if it does that, it'll just skip to the end of the print, whether usually if you're printing off of USB.
Oh yeah, someone else reformats the card. So it seems like most people think it's SD card issue, which is what I would have said.
It can also be a wiring issue with
Yeah,
the BL
I wasn't aware of the BL Touch thing. I've never actually used BL Touch properly in my life.
Yeah, if you wire it incorrectly and it triggers in an unexpected way, Marlin will just shut down.
Well, it's good to know. It's a bit of a weird problem.
Yeah, you'll get this. My first few prints worked fine and then it started doing this.
Yeah, so that's probably like when a wire gets loose and isn't connected properly.
Yeah, the reason that, so he says he went back to stock firmware that didn't support BL Touch. The reason that that worked is that it just excludes, because the BL Touch isn't communicating anymore, it can't cause Marlin to halt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's too bad. That guy probably needs better wiring on his BL Touch or needs a new one. Maybe it's shorted or something.
So no one solved this one.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
To be fair, if this was asked to me yesterday, I wouldn't have been able to narrow it down to BL Touch.
My brother's mother's-in-law, son's uncle, son does 3D printing, and he told them to tell me to tell you that it's wet filament and bad extruder. Oh, Al said SD card corruption. Colin thinks it could be Cura. I think it has to do, I think it's either SD card, but particularly for that other post, I think it was the BL Touch wiring. Because it's a solid red, and you can see it stopped after it leveled and went into the corner. My cousin's friend's sister said her stepdad usually lubes the filament with glycerin to fix it.
Interesting.
Glycerin? Would that go on fire if you printed it?
I think that stuff's pretty stable. It's like gel. I wouldn't recommend lubing your print filament.
I'm going to throw this printer out the window.
Ooh.
This one's an interesting one. What's the other fail he has? Layer shift.
It's interesting. Okay. Oh, so it looks like he has y-axis only. Yeah, his x-axis looks good, but it's y-axis specifically. So,
But this
oh,
is
no, that's x-axis. He's got his homework in the
Oh yeah,
picture
yeah.
too.
This is because this is this thing in the back is the
Bar up and down.
tower. Yeah. So X is towards like across.
Yeah, okay, so this it's going like this way. Yeah, so his x-axis probably has some backlash in it.
I think.
Unless this is Ender 3v2, sometimes this is an overheating on the
on the motor.
on the motor drivers. Because yeah, sometimes it just it's
Well,
not like layer shifts, but they kind of just go back and forth.
QuinlyVision would definitely see these tiny shifts. Although this might be so small, it would think it's a blob. No, it would detect the shift because especially in the back here, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I would check the x-axis idler screw and belt.
Small shift with prints like that, you may have some buildup, belt tension maybe.
Yeah, but belt tension is probably the easiest thing to say. Uh, they should check first.
It can sometimes happen that your belt is too tight and then the motor has trouble turning.
Oh, that could be a thing.
One of the
Although it is really hard to like super over tighten your belts to that point. Like you have to really be cranking on it, but some people don't know that like it doesn't need to sound like a guitar string.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't need to be that tight. It also, it's important, it shifts in both directions.
Yeah, and it kind of evens itself out a little bit, like it goes one way then the other. This could be the stepper motor overheating, but since it's just on the X, I'm not sure. It's either a
This print
hardware.
doesn't have that much movement in the X2. It's probably belt tension.
Yeah, like if it's a backlash issue, then the backlash is only limited within a small range of motion.
Backlash as in when it changes direction, it would skip a step.
Like when it changes direction, then the belt doesn't actually move for a little bit until the slack is taken up. So it could either be like loose belt or like the idler gear is loose. Because sometimes, the stepper motors have like a D shaft.
Yeah.
You have to do a set screw on the D shaft. But if the set screw isn't all the way pressed up against the D shaft, then it can like wiggle slightly.
I wouldn't, because it's not like belt backlash in the sense that it's not constantly lashing back because you
No,
end up with
it's intermittent.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh, here, Three Musketeers suggested the exact same thing. Could it be a
Yeah.
loose pulley because the grub screw? Yeah. Actually, he'll be hearing you saying that
Yeah, so
as
he's
soon as
we're
he
same
commented.
great minds think alike, it
Yeah.
seems.
Belt tension on X, missing tooth on belt.
Missing tooth. I haven't heard of that one.
I've held, oh, what? I've had a belt get half a tooth eaten due to a previous clog that I didn't find until months later. That's crazy.
So I guess the belt lost its baby teeth and wait for the wisdoms to grow in.
Yeah, that's crazy. Will QuinlyVision eventually be able to learn different issues with different printers? I think possibly because it would know what printer it's connected to. It might know that like people printing on this printer encounter this issue more often.
I need a good sample size for that.
Yeah. This is cool. It only showed the problem within a 10 mm window on any print because it would only happen on certain parts of the bed. Okay, let's see what people say. Are you running a 100% stock Cura profile? Cura has very high acceleration values, which often results in layer shift due to print head shooting over.
I think stock Cura profiles these days have acceleration control turned off.
Yes, and this is also only 2 weeks ago, so no. And we have gone up to 3,000 without layer shifting on the ender.
On an angle too.
Yeah, with the y-axis angle.
Although not using a glass bed. With the glass bed, I'd be wary at 300.
Oh, you're right.
Or 3,000.
You're right. I'm not sure this is a problem as I have another Ender 3v2 running the same profile. So it might be motor overheating or a belt issue.
Yeah, because Ender 3v2 specifically has that problem where sometimes the stepper motor drivers overheat.
I've actually had that on my Ender at home too. The current to the motors was too high and it would get too hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, someone else suggested maybe
The
belts. Oh wait, he also said E-steps in flow.
No!
Like, oh, you're so close.
Downvote.
It's like he got it right, and then he's like, no, must say it, must say it.
It's not flow. The prints look really good. Yes. Okay, a joke. Upgrade, change, adjust cycle. Yeah, people will tend to throw upgrades at the problem.
The stock ender is all you need as long as you assemble it right. Oh, this
I
is some
I
useful
agree with
info.
this
Yeah.
because I have had issues with the current or yeah, the current being too high and the motor's getting too hot. But it was on a regular Ender 3.
Oh, this is you get some more info.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's what we were saying earlier. Um, lead screws not being straight. Probably not.
I've aligned the grub screw, but it keeps coming loose after an hour or so of printing. So this is probably the issue.
Well, that was on his extruder. He mentioned he had
Oh, I
his
see.
extruder thing kept slipping off.
Oh, I misread it as the on the x-axis.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it's not right. Could one of my wheels have a flat spot? No. They can, but it wouldn't cause that much of an issue.
Motor cables and connectors.
Corrupted SD card. Like, yeah, this is crazy.
It's like,
I don't
no,
read this subreddit very much, and I'm surprised
it's
by
not good for your mental health, really.
I'm surprised by the amount of advice that's being given here. So it just shows that there is a need for some sort of standard way of assessing prints.
Yeah. Oh, this guy suggests stepper motors are overheating. He's got 1 point. No one thought it was good.
Yeah, at the very bottom of the thread.
But I think it fixed it, so uh hey.
He fixed it.
Hey, he actually fixed it. This is the first one that we found that fixed it.
So the correct fix was at the very bottom of the thread.
Not upvoted by anybody, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's why it's important to give people a baseline. And it's actually hard too because a lot of people don't have context for exactly how it happened because they didn't see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like half the battle is getting the information you need to be able to assess it.
Yeah, what button did you just click to close those tabs?
Middle mouse button.
Oh, that's such a cool one. I'm
Yeah.
going to use that.
And then Control Shift T to open them again.
Yeah, I love that one. I actually use Control W to close tabs, but it only closes the current tab.
Oh yeah, middle mouse button.
Wow.
My favorite shortcut.
I love keyboard shortcuts.
What else do we have? Could color of filament impact the quality of a print? This is probably an interesting thread.
Good question.
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
That's the answer we found.
Yeah.
Yes, different filaments have different compositions. Yeah,
Hey,
this is like a
top comment has actual answer.
perfect answer.
Yeah. Because we don't know if they're the same brand or the same. Yeah, like even the pigments in this within the same brand can cause differences. Like especially like white PLA. I've noticed.
You have to use different additives for different pigments too.
Yeah.
And sometimes different stabilizers. So that's good. Everyone knows this.
Yeah, it seems like some information is more common knowledge than others. Oh, this is good.
This one, I hate this problem.
So temporary over and temporary under extrusion.
Particularly with walls.
Yeah, it looks like I wonder if this is
My therapist will be hearing about the 3D printing right now. Yeah.
this is almost like top surfaces are printing the correct speed and walls are printing too fast or something like that.
Could be too cold.
Yeah, well it looks yeah, it could be too cold, that's true. But then the top surfaces are over extruded weirdly. I would say it's probably weird extrusion speed on the inner walls or too cold. And then
It
maybe
is
like
only the inner walls. Look at the pig nose. Because these walls are fine and these walls are okay, but then
it gets worse as the more walls.
yeah.
Yeah, I think inner wall speed's probably too high. And then
They're using concentric infill. They are. It could be that the
Yes,
infill,
they are.
the top surface is just not supported by the infill underneath. And then of course they
Hmm.
have the travels are for some reason are extruding.
This is a weird issue. I guess.
We had this on the long boxes once.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I remember that. Hmm.
Let us know what you think. I think I think it's some issue with the inner wall setting and the infill going on top of the top surface going on top of the infill. It's not being supported fully.
I wonder if he's tried to compensate for some of this stuff by having different flow settings on different parts of the print. Because it could be that he's done, I guess I don't know, but they have like higher flow on top surfaces than on walls or something.
Something that's kind of telling is that I think this is a concentric infill problem actually.
You know, there's also the corners have
There are no gaps.
no gaps, but on the straight long sections there's gaps. So it could actually be like the hot end isn't melting filament fast enough.
So too cold.
Yeah.
Although
Or too fast.
the width looks okay though. Like the width looks pretty consistent. Although maybe it's just like consistently under extruding by a certain amount.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe we should see if fixmyprint wants to set up a portal so people could submit directly to QuinlyVision. Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, yeah, we were actually thinking of going one step further and creating a bot that would automatically respond to every comment, every post on fixmyprint, with its interpretation of the fail in the image. So if people post an image to fixmyprint, like the bot could respond within seconds with, uh, at least a diagnosis of the problem. And that could actually give a good baseline for people to say like, okay, this is under extrusion. I'm going to go Google that. Or we could link them to like some resources, like say, hey, we noticed your print had under extrusion. This is the article by All3DP on under extrusion. Check it out. That would give people at least a great baseline without having to trust random Reddit users, or even just wait for a response. Like some people don't get responses on fixmyprint. Especially if they have a hard or difficult problem, sometimes people just don't answer those.
Mm-hmm. Alice's top layer sagging due to not enough infill combined with too high print temperature and under extrusion. So this is like almost the same, although he thinks it's too high, and I think it's too cold.
Yes, I would agree. Also, I think maybe they have weird line width settings, now that I think about it. No.
Let's see what people say.
Yeah.
Loose belts, no, because it's in all directions.
Yeah.
Loose belts, there is a thing on Delta printers. I forgot what it was called. It's like a specific where the top layer doesn't meet correctly. But it has to do not with loose belts. Or well, on the Delta it has to do with loose belts, but it only happens in one axis.
Did anyone else mention it?
I'll check this. They seem tight, but not tight enough.
It's not belts. Oh, he gives us some info.
Ender 3v2 with the aluminum dry feed Cura 4.13 PLA. Ran it 2 and only one had the issue. I mean, it could be E-steps because the aluminum dry feeds are not consistent.
Yeah. It could be because
No,
that would explain the over extrusion in the center.
E-steps are okay though.
Polymaker PLA, I actually print that hot at 230 or 220.
Yeah, 210 is like borderline.
Under extrusion.
Backlash in the printers. I don't agree with backlash. Under extrusion because of heat creep. So that would be to Al's point that it's too hot.
But I don't think heat creep causes
That type
that
of.
kind of under extrusion. It would be like the whole layer is under extruded, not just certain parts of the layer.
Yeah, with heat creep, it could be that the slower parts of the layer get. But I think, because everything is so over extruded, I think they're pushing more filament than they should be through the hot end. And then
Yeah,
when it's doing these, because on the top surface, these inner perimeters are going to be the fastest part.
yeah.
I think that it's under extrusion due to something.
Yeah, so I think their baseline flow rate is over extruding, but then they're also printing too fast and too cold so that it under extrudes in certain areas. So that's why it has over extrusion in some places and under extrusion in others. E-steps calibration. I mean, actually, a lot of times people calibrate their E-steps and forget to save.
I don't think it would look like that though.
It would be quite a bit more off though still. That's true.
Yeah, people print really before, like when I was starting out, I was also printing at 180 to 200. I don't think I ever really went over 200 degrees for PLA.
Yeah, I used to do 200 to 215. That's my limited range of print temps. But also most people don't print that fast, and 200 is fine for like small, high quality models. Too fast at points. I mean, this is correct, I think. It does look like it not extruded too fast. But this is actually a hard one. I don't think it's particularly obvious what the solution is. Walls are by definition concentric.
This is true.
Concentric does get weird in
It
cases.
can, where there are curves, it will not fill them correctly. But then usually you'll get gaps in the curves and not on the straights.
Yeah.
Because it won't stack fully.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe Cura 5.0 actually fixes this issue. Yeah, Cura 5.0 fixes concentric issues. Or at least its concentric pathing is better in 5.0. Kevin says, would ironing help with the top? I think it would help cover up the problem, but it wouldn't fix the problem. And actually, it probably would make the top surface look very rough because it's already over extruded.
Yeah, they also don't seem. I think it may be a retraction issue because look at like these lines here. Which
Yeah,
are
like the travel lines
lines.
actually show up as print lines, which is very strange.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I just didn't know what to do about it. I think it's just because it's over extruding, and so the nozzle's dragging.
But it looks like it's putting material down rather than flattening material.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder if they just it's something really weird with the extruder.
Maybe it's taking all G0 moves as G1 moves. I mean, that's not a thing that happens. So.
Maybe it can't keep up with just certain.
I would want to see this printed at like half speed.
Yeah.
To see if the same thing happens.
This one's tricky.
Yeah, so inconclusive.
Inconclusive. We can't say that people were wrong or right.
Shall we do one more?
Yeah, let's do one last one.
Bed too high. Oh, this one's an easy one. Everyone should be able to figure out what this problem is. Why isn't it sticking? I mean, there's a few things he can do here. Definitely E-steps.
I think you need a fan.
Oh, they don't have a part cooling fan.
That's definitely it.
That's yeah. Just a weird thing.
I think they need to switch to a Prusa.
This looks like it is a Prusa, but it's just a really old Prusa. It could be like one of those Wanhao duplicator i3s. Or a maker.
Oh, yeah. Let's see what it says.
I mean, it's level the bed.
Level the bed.
I think that's the main problem, but slow down the first layer, increase your first layer temps, increase your first layer line width and layer height. I say this all the time.
How do I do that in Kira?
Send you a DM of a photo. Re-level your bed. Yeah, I mean, leveling your bed is definitely the first thing to do. I'm curious because people still use printers like this. Like it seems like they're a new user to 3D printing, but they have a printer that's super old. So like, have they inherited it or have they like gotten it from a friend?
Might bought them secondhand.
Could be a secondhand printer. Actually, that's an annoying thing. I see on Craigslist a lot of times people are like, here's this printer from like 2014, great for beginners. Like, no, you're gonna get no help from anyone.
Steven's advice is to crank it up to 550C with a 4-inch line width and a 6-inch layer height.
Yeah,
that's pretty close.
Yeah, if it doesn't look like a log cabin, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you need to be going through one spool an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, do you even print fast, bro?
Yeah, I think the bed is just too high. That was too easy.
He probably just needs a new printer. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, get a Stratus.
That's gonna be just so hard to diagnose.
Why is this happening? Oh, okay, under 5.
It's probably the skirt thing. Oh, I bet you it's a skirt thing where it like does the thing. It makes the loop of filament and then it comes back.
Okay, it's priming.
Okay, it's looking good.
This is very stock under 5.
A little bit high. It looks alright though.
It's high.
Yeah, it's just a high bed, right?
Look how it flipped.
Yeah, bed's too high. Or bed's too low, nozzle's too high.
Yeah.
Maybe he has a warped bed though, because that looks like his center is actually a bit lower than the right-hand side.
Oh yeah.
But
you're right.
I think he's...
Or it could be tilted, we don't know.
Could be. Or yeah, he could just be not leveled on the left side.
Why is this happening? Although leveling this bed is hard. It's a 3-point leveling. There's one in the back and 2 in the front, from what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a bed level.
Yeah.
I think most people would have said that.
Level the bed. Level the bed. Weird red spots in print.
Ooh.
Could this be the heater cartridge wire ending up in the print? Melting into the print?
I bet they printed with red filament like a few prints ago.
And just like
and it's
seeping
dripping
down.
on.
I only have white and black filament.
What?
This is interesting.
It says the print is sold too.
Oh, it is?
Look at the very top.
Print fixed.
Print
okay,
fixed.
let's see.
Well, someone says that there might be a filament grain that's red that got mixed in with the white.
No way. It wouldn't show like this though, because it'd be spread so far. It might just be contaminated, but it's not in the direction of printing, is it? Oh, it is. But like,
so I think,
but it wouldn't. No, it can't be.
He's saying that the filament has a single red spot in it.
It can't be, because how would this part be printed?
It would be just like a line.
It would be a line.
And that it would look cleaner than that. Probably.
I think it's fuzz from the. Let's see. They do test. I know on the under 5, mine came with neon green filament in the hot end. But I don't think it would leave this.
No, unless it was like really
just like a chunk of it.
Well, like if there's something stuck on like the heat block or something. But usually when they test it, they don't mess up too bad. Is your PTFE tube red? So this guy has really super cheap filament.
23 USD is not that cheap. little blobby boy on the Honda. He says there's no red filament that he's ever printed.
Someone else says debris landed on it right at the bottom.
Where?
This guy.
Here. Oh yeah. It doesn't seem to be a continuous line. Like, yeah, all the way down here. I think it might be debris. The maker was adding his DNA to the print.
Ooh.
Like blood. Yikes. Maybe. Like, that usually happens when you're scraping the bed, though.
Yeah, when you hit yourself with a spatula.
That's when you make the blood sacrifice.
Any mosquitoes nearby, so. Well, apparently this guy fixed it. I wonder where it says.
Any mosquitoes nearby? Have you seen the one where somebody like printed a fly into their print before?
No.
A fly landed onto a print and then just got squished by a nozzle.
That is such a weird fail.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
I just saw the thumbnail and it's hilarious. You should
I really
watch.
like the thumbnail.
Yeah, it's so true. And if you
Hey, look, there's some guy that says, "Did you calibrate E-steps?"
yeah, did you?
But actually, his reasoning is good because he said to use a red marker on the E-steps.
This is actually legit. Did you calibrate E-steps? Yeah, I mean, like if you go back in the stream, you'll see some people just saying, calibrate your E-steps.
Oh, so he figured it out. It was red filament. He found bits of red filament inside the hot end.
Probably stuck in the heat break, like when they pulled it out.
Yeah, it could be in the threads of the heat break, maybe,
Could be.
or in the nozzle.
Or what if it leaked like out over the top?
Yeah, sometimes that happens, and it like slowly drips into your print. Well, I think we've gone through
experienced. So
the pain of fix my print.
So to recap, we've looked at about 6 or 7 threads, and these are top voted threads that have usually a couple comments are correct out of dozens and dozens, and that can make it really difficult for people who are new to printing or people who just have a problem that they need solved.
Yeah.
It can make it very hard for them to get their printers working because there's a lot of noise that you have to filter through.
Yeah, and everyone seems like an expert when you're just looking at their comments, because when you're a beginner, everyone else is more experienced than you. So you will trust everything that you see, but a lot of information isn't correct on this subreddit.
Yeah, and just in forms in general. I mean, my experience starting with 3D printing was that it could take weeks to even find out what my problem was before even looking at how to fix it.
Yeah, on actually my first printer, my Monoprice Maker Select, I had under extrusion for like 4 or 5 months, and I didn't know that my gear had actually worn out. I didn't know how to check it. And I actually like basically stopped 3D printing entirely for like a good half year because of that issue. I just get these random lines that didn't print, and like I'd be missing a single layer in my whole print, and I'd be like, this is so annoying.
Did you calibrate E-steps?
No. At some point I did calibrate E-steps on that printer.
Yeah.
Because Reddit told me to.
But that wouldn't have helped the worn out gear. I remember on mine the issue was pillowing because I was printing the top layer too cold.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, nobody could give me a good answer for it. Like I did get the answer, calibrate E-steps or change the flow rate. But that obviously wouldn't help. And so that's why we think it's really important to have some kind of baseline that is not based on anecdotal experience, but based on actual data for quantifying what's going on in a print. And so that's what we're trying to do with QuinlyVision, is to be able to show it photos of prints, have it score them, and where this becomes really important is when you have a whole bunch of people using QuinlyVision. When one person fixes a problem, that fix goes back up to the model and can be applied to anyone else who's using that model. So now instead of having a whole bunch of anecdotes from people who tried things that worked for them and for their particular case, you have a whole bank of different fixes that everyone is contributing to that QuinlyVision can help when it's looking at your prints, particularly with classifying, but even over time, like if you're running printers and you know what you're doing, but QuinlyVision starts noticing that things are getting worse or changing, maybe it starts stringing more or your nozzle is clogging more often than it used to, it can tell you here are some hardware issues that could be happening without you having to constantly babysit your machine.
Yeah, because hardware problems are a bit harder to diagnose than slicing problems. Especially like G code that works before now doesn't work. Usually indicates a hardware problem.
Mm-hmm. And if you're printing the same G code on one printer successfully and not successfully on another printer, you know there could be an issue there. Or if you were printing a G code that would give you a certain amount of stringing and then you change some settings and the system detects that there's less stringing, then it can understand and look at those changes and perhaps suggest them to somebody who's using a similar setup.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's so soon we hope to maybe we've been talking to the mods of the Fix My Print subreddit, and maybe we're thinking about doing a bot that'll just attempt to give a quick answer to new posts, and hopefully over time we get more and more accurate to the point where people do not have to sift through 100 different things before finding their solution with -1 points at the bottom of the thread.
Yeah. Or at least as soon as they post their problem, they get something to work off of because they get told the problem. Like QuinlyVision will see their print and say, "Hey, you have under extrusion. Here's the article to detect under extrusion. Here's how to fix it," and it gives you that solution rather than having to wait for someone to tell you.
Yeah, just knowing what to search, because a lot of people are suggesting fixes without suggesting what could be wrong too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's really exciting. I think it will be cool.
Yeah, this was fun. I like browsing Fix My Print
I don't.
in general. You don't, but
It's
I
exciting.
enjoy it. It's kind of like it makes me feel like good to fix people's prints. You know, if they actually respond to you like 2 weeks later saying, "Hey, thank you, your fix helped me," I feel really good.
That feels good.
But then also it sucks when you see like so many wrong answers and people uploading them. And you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go try this. I'm gonna go calibrate my E-steps and flow," when their bed wasn't level. Like,
Yeah, it can be slightly like triggering.
yeah.
I think the bot is a fantastic idea. I think it'll be fun too,
Yeah.
just to be able to give people a quick answer and something to search. Yeah, and then eventually, when they have it watching the print from beginning to the end and being able to look at the G-code file, it'll be able to give far more robust answer to what's going wrong. Do it in your own 3D print fix subreddit. I think it'd be best to do it in the one that exists already.
I think we would create a test subreddit to test it out first.
Yeah.
But then we move it over to Fix My Print once we're happy with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So maybe we could actually set up a fake subreddit where maybe you guys in chat can like submit your like fake print fails and see what QuinlyVision
Oh, that'd be cool.
thinks of them.
Yeah, we're also thinking about maybe doing a Discord bot in our Discord.
Oh yeah,
for that.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are we doing? What are we doing next week?
Next week we're going to be talking about beta testing for Quinly Pro. We're going to be opening the beta test. So if you want to be able to network hubs together and do very fancy stuff with central queuing and central scheduling, file sharing files across all printers instantly, definitely tune in next week because we'll be talking about what the beta will entail and how to sign up. Yeah, Quinly Pro is pretty exciting. And for those of you who are in the multi-hub beta, that actually ends up will end up merging with Quinly Pro. So
Mhm.
multi-hub will end, and then those features will be rolled into Quinly Pro as well. So you'll be able to connect multiple printers to a hub and multiple hubs to one another in a network and control everything from a single interface.
And then you get like the benefits of a centralized file system where every printer is all connected to this one central file repository. So you don't need to update G-code files on across printers. You don't need to worry about version control issues with some printers having version 1.1, some printers having version 1.2, and accidentally printing the wrong file. Um, I think we're also going to have like um, filters like material, so you can actually send prints that only printers with PLA will print this material, or only printers with black PLA, for example, will print this print.
Yeah, you'll be able to basically pre-schedule all of your orders in the queue. So even if you have orders in a color that's not currently loaded, you'll be able to submit those, and then once you switch printers over to that color later in the day or later in the week, it'll have all those jobs and start pulling from them for you. So
Right.
you can, whenever you have orders come in, whether you're printing for yourself or printing for a store or for anyone else, you can just immediately put those orders in or do it maybe once a day or once a week and basically pre-queue everything and just allow Quinly to automatically dispatch and schedule things. So that's going to be really exciting. I think it'll help us a lot on our print farm as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's going to be a fun stream. Is there anything people need to do in the meantime for that, or just wait for wait for Wednesday?
They should join the Discord if they're not there.
Join the Discord.
Yes. That's basically it.
Cool. Yeah, just a question.
Yeah, but make sure to have notifications on for next week's stream because we'll be explaining how to get in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as with all betas, the more people we can get, the better. So if you make sure to invite some people that you know to this because the more testing we can do, it's way better. Like the multi-hub beta, we've only done the first phase of it, and it's already something like 500 or 600 hours of testing, which has been really, really good. Yeah, and with Pro, it's going to be important to get a lot of testing because everything gets exponentially more complicated when you attach that many printers together.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've had a fun time fixing people's prints and yeah, talking about how QuinlyVision might be actually able to automatically solve online problems that people post. So I'm excited for that. It'll make my job easier on Fix My Print.
Yeah.
Not having to go and solve everyone's bed leveling and E-steps issues.
Yeah, and so join us next Wednesday for the call for beta testers for Quinly Pro, and yeah, we'll talk a bit more about what that will look like. But I'm really looking forward to that. All right.
Cool.
Well, we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.